This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the website builder with all the tools you need to create your own site to showcase and sell artwork.
All right, welcome back everyone in our last Force installment. Today we're going to talk about shape. I love shape. Shape is basically the merging now of force and form. So I like starting force shape with the don'ts or the do nots. So this is shape number 1, number 2, and shape number 3. The problem with these shapes is they're not forceful because they are symmetrical. Each one of these shapes, I could put a straight line down and they're like a mirror image of themselves. But I'm trying to create shape. So the new headspace to get into here is that line is not the king anymore. Line has been like our primary tool. Now line is in service of something greater than itself, and that line is in service of creating good forceful shapes. So what is a good shape? Our force shape looks something like this. I start with force, and then I'm going to put a straight on the other side of it, like so. And we have those two ends of the scale both in one shape now. So the curved line represents force, and the straight line represents structure. I want to be aware that inside of it that there's form, right? And here I am wrapping, or I can sit and sculpt and say, well, I want it like this. I could say there's a turning edge in it. So now notice I've got a sharper like corner that I've created for it, right? So there's all these different ways of creating structure, but if the container is good, if that force shape is good, meaning it still has force and it's connecting to another place and we have a supporting structure, then chances are you're going to have a really good solid figure drawing with great silhouette that reads really quickly and keeps movement alive. There's some great ways to practice force shape, and one is just to start drawing shapes and see if you can get them to connect into one another, right? So I'm air drawing, right? Soft touch approach, and I'm flowing. As soon as I have like this curve of force here, I can put in a straight, and I have this rhythm, so that means I'm going to go into another shape, right, and create another straight, and there we go. So this is a good way to practice, right? Like just start playing around with different shapes, you know, and seeing if you can break the rules. Like if I did this and it becomes elliptical, the problem is these two curved lines are of almost equal power, and I don't have a straight in there, so it feels symmetrical. As soon as I hit symmetry, it's over. Now, I could say that this is going to be a C-torso with a lot of overlap, okay? If it didn't have the overlap, I could have this, I'd have a little straight for, let's say, like the lumbar region of the back. Now, believe it or not, that little straight line right there actually creates a straight to curve for this side of the body, a straight to curve for the back, and a straight to curve for the rear end. So there's like 3 shapes here. You see that? If it had overlap, notice I don't have a straight. Well, that's okay. This is still a forceful shape. And the reason is this curve on this side does not dominate this curve. This curve is still the bigger curve, right? And there's a small curve over here. That doesn't dominate that curve either, right? So there's still the more powerful, forceful edge versus these smaller edges. Let's take a look. I'm going to go to my my forearm again, like we did in form. So here's the shoulder, here's the back of the arm, right? And that is the way the rhythm works, by the way, in the arm. It's always like elbow side. It's over here, and here it is going in front of the deltoid. Notice I drive back and forth and back and forth. I'm gluing it together. So if I were to put straight lines in here, that would mean I would have something like this for that curve, and here's a curve. I would put a straight line like this, but that doesn't look that great, right? It looks very abstract, so something's going on here. I can get more realistic, you know, I could say, all right, well, here's the deltoid, and it cuts in like this, and the back of the deltoid typically goes like this and then wraps around the arm. You see, this is my curve. This is actually my straight. It's even okay if it goes slightly concave on that edge. All right, and then I have the back of the arm. Well, I have the tricep there, so I could go out like this, come down. That's my big curve of force. Here's the bicep, which is usually shorter. Then you have, here's the elbow, and then here you have the brachioradialis, right? So it comes in from the center of this part of the arm, and it comes up over and around like this. And then I have the big curve of force down here, and I finally hit this straight right, for the bone. And that gives me another shape. The reason this shape's fine is because the bicep is smaller than the tricep on the back, right? So that's an okay silhouette. This still wins. I talked to you about the calf. The one shape, though, that I notice I use now all the time within this is really quite simple. And I finally have come to this shape. So this is my force side, this is my structure side. And because we've bumped up from line to shape, this shape on its own is basically a giant arrow. So when, let's say I draw the figure, right, like here's the torso, I'm saying it's a C torso, here's the spine, let's say, here's the rear end. Now I want to draw the leg, I want to draw a leg coming back towards me. I'll say it's front of thigh. Well, guess what? That means the back of the thigh is the straight. There's my shape. And then I'm going to say the rhythm here is front of thigh, back of calf. So now it takes me like this, and there's my straight. And look at how quickly now I have a leg, right? And then I can get the form stuff in here. I could say, well, the wrinkling is going like this. That small piece of information there is enough to start telling me about the roundness. I want the gastrocnemius in front of the hamstring here, right? Here's another leg, so I'm going to say it's front of thigh, right? It's curve, straight. You can see that abstraction. And then I'm going to go curve, straight, right? There's the shape, and voila, right? All of a sudden I have a leg. Let's draw maybe a couple more figures out of my imagination, and then we'll take it over to some models. So in the S and C, if I'm going to say this is the curve of force in the S, well, guess what? That means the chest is actually my straight. And then we're saying, well, the stomach is going to be the curve of force. Then my straight is the other side of the abs here. That's one of them. I'm going to finish this off in a second. But you see, I got that. Look at that forceful shape I got right there. I got curve and straight right in there. I got straight and curve right here. Right? Let's say this is the top of the body. I can also say that this is going to actually be more of a straight line here in the rear end just versus this curve, so it kind of pushes out the silhouette. And then I can create the legs. Again, let's say this is front to back. I'm going to do that. So outside, inside, outside. This is my curve, this is my straight, right? This is my curve on the inside of the knee. Outside of the knee is a straight line. I use the tibia here as my straight against the outside of the calf, and then you got the other gastrocnemius. Remember, it's that just like the forearm, right? And then here, I could say this is my straight versus my curve. And this is my curve versus my straight. Again, you can get as anatomical as you want afterwards, right? But you've got good shapes that have happened really quickly. And lastly, what's kind of cool about this is I'm showing it to you through the silhouette of the body, but this idea also works hierarchically. And what I mean by that is it doesn't just have to be the silhouette of the body, right? I'm giving you big shapes here, but every muscle shape, you know, so as you kind of go down the rabbit hole of drawing, every muscle shape has straight to curve shape design as well. One place that when students start using force, they always get stuck in the trap of creating one of the bad shapes is on the neck. You don't want your neck to look like this, right? Like it's being pinched out of the body. So you want it to come from the back into the neck, you know. So here's my curve. I use the sternocleidomastoid muscle. It goes behind the ear there, right? Like this. And then my straight is back here, right? So notice I have a little straight to curve shape buried in there. And there it goes and then it goes into the trapezius here. All right, so next step and last one is let's see if we can take this over to some figures. Remember, as you see me drawing with line, and forceful line at that, I'm actually trying to draw the shape, okay? So just keep that in mind. And I'll try to tone it in as fast as I can for you to witness where my head is really at. So you can see, really I'm thinking about this. And you know, you can tone it in right away. I've done drawings where I literally have just toned in shape. Now the problem with that is I'm doing this to get a shape, I'm not feeling the energy of it and using a forced line to like create it. That's sort of the problem with it, but it is sort of a fun exercise to go through just to get a sense of what's the silhouette here. So I'm quickly going between the line and the toning because I want to be aware that that's really what I'm after. This is an awesome tool for those of you that have been concerned about proportion and measuring, because again, I can see positive and negative shape, right? So I can see how far out the side of his body is to his leg. I can see the negative space between the legs, the triangle that's going to start to emerge. So I can see that intersection because I more clearly now have, you know, the silhouette. So not only am I creating the positive, I'm creating the negative at the same time. This force goes from here to the inside knee there in the back, and it pops out again like this. Look at the angle between the knees, right? Knees are a great place to make a comparison of angles. So I cheat in here, I go to the tibia for that straight edge, and then I grab the narrowness, the gastrocnemius there. I'm looking at the positive negative shape, which is, this is the negative, right, in between. Small little note, usually the inside ankle is higher than the outside ankle, by the way, which is good for force because this is going inside knee, outside calf, inside ankle, then I go to the outside. Adding on the shoulder is another shape. Now, as I come out with his arm, I can pay attention to the negative again, right, to help me. And I can see that his foot's gonna land, you know, somewhere around, I mean, his hand's gonna land here somewhere, right, like his hand's over here. Right, so that tells me how far down I have to go. This is my curve of force over here. I can add the small nuances of his elbow and so on. Right, this is my long curve of force though. So I can have a curve here for the bicep, right, brachioradialis, and then come down and into the bone, right? That's all fine because I got that long curve on the outside that's giving me this great shape. Again, I can pay attention to negative, right? Here's the positive, but there's the negative. And I got my straight, I got the curve and a straight, but this is my long curve, okay? So that's the shape of the arm. And then he puts this really nice break in his wrist right there, which gives us a rhythm, right? Because we go from here to here. All right, and then I could fill this with form, and the form now can actually start to becoming the anatomy. All right, so that's our first one. Let's do one more. So I want to keep that in mind, right, as I'm doing this. I want that, right, boom, into the hip. Really, really powerful. There's my S. I've got this curve here. That's going to give me a straight over here. And I want to really push into this pelvis right there. Right? And she's got this nice straight right here on the other side to try and like balance this out. This is the curve. So guess what? That means this, with all of its information there, abstractly is actually our straight. Now I can add all the info on that. I could say, well, her skin is wrinkling at the bottom. You know, we could see that her scapula is coming in here like this, right? You can see her breast is sitting about right here. Like that's all just layers of other shapes on top of the big straight to curve shape. I'm still drawing with the force line, right? A to B, A to B, A to B. I want to make sure her pelvis holds its angle. Here's her leg, so curve. It's going to be my straight. Now her leg might not be straight, right? If we look at it, you'll notice that that's an abstraction. She's fleshier than that, right? She's actually got a curve like this, and then it starts to straighten out and pull in a little bit, and then we hit the knee. It's totally fine, right? Because this is so overpowering, that force curve. It's okay if I add all this other nuance in here, as long as I don't kill the other side. I got a long, skinny neck, very elegant. This would be my straight, because this is my curve. This is my curved side, so I have my straights in here. I'm closing off this negative a little bit because I made her too thin. So I'm pushing that out because I want that little shape. I need to change her arm. You see? I'm narrowing out the negative shape. And then last but not least, we got her shoulder, which means the straight would be on the other side of it. And then curve of force on the outside of her arm. And then on the top, which means we would have a straight here and a straight here. So here's again just another really quick example of how force shape gives you silhouette, and you're holding on to movement and it's all connected, so nothing's falling apart, and you can easily go in there and get some form. So here at the end of these force videos, I thought I would share with you some of my prior drawings and kind of analyze them. You're going to see me going across a range of different styles, from cartoony to more realistic. From very soft-touched to drawn with, you know, one line at a time. But I want you to be aware that underneath all of that, force is still driving the entire drawing, and there's form inside of it and shape design. And each one of these might be stronger in one of those three buckets than another. Here's a drawing, it's in one of the books. It's done with like one line at a time, right? There's no underdrawing here. It's literally what you see is what you get. But be aware within that is the abstraction of these shapes. You can see it really clearly in the arm here because I toned it in just to set it back a little bit. but it's all like force shapes. It's this long curve. It's got all the smaller curves and information. There's that curve to straight I was telling you about. Curve of force over the top versus the smaller curves on the bottom. Notice the straight here versus the curve in the back. Notice here we're going from front to back. So it's all hidden within this drawing. And again, I want you to be aware, look at the curve and look at the straight, right? Like there it is, 1, 2, straight to curve, right here. This one gets a little, I get myself almost in trouble here with almost an even pinch, and then I come out with the straight to curve again. Here's a curve in the rib cage with a straight in the back. Curve of the arm, straight of the front, curve and straight on the top, right? You can see I'm kind of quickly going through it because it's always going to be the same thing. Now, everyone's different anatomically in the nuance, but the same, obviously, overarchingly. So I try to be aware of both of those ideas. Here, the curve of force is dropping down, so that's my straight, right? I'm pushing in here. Here, I have almost 2 straights, but I'm trying to offset the symmetry to make sure that I can push this straight into the curve of the stomach, basically, right? So I have a wall here, and then I have this curve of force sort of billowing out of that wall that's sitting right there. And all that gravity is pushing down and then pushing out. And then notice on the leg, we've got outside, inside, outside. Here we come up and over and then down. You got the calf again with the small curve and the straight, and I'm sweeping down to the foot. This is one of my favorite drawings. This is a very old drawing. This drawing is probably from the late 90s. It's in the first book. This model was amazing. He's one of the guys I used in New York all the time. So force, form, and shape, you can see it has a lot of shape. You can see the silhouette, but much more attention to form in here, right? I'm really like sculpting out all the musculature of his back. You could see like his scapula pushing and how his lats wrap around the bone and how the lats are like pulling up, you know, into his spine, right? Notice all the rhythms that are moving through here. Even the line is very organic. Here we have this fleshy, muscular drawing, and you can feel that in the line. Here's one that's very angular and very shaped out. You can see that shape was my focus. It's almost abstract, really, right? But it's all created with force, straight to curve shapes. It's holding on to the fluidity of the body. You could see me exaggerating in the calves and the feet, right? I grabbed this sheet because I wanted you to see what like a typical force 1-minute drawing would look like. You can see there's a number 1 written next to each of these. So these are really fast. They're all about finding rhythms in the body. There's a little bit of roundness in here, a little bit of roundness, but mostly just getting the rhythms of the figure down in 1 minute. I grabbed this guy because I wanted you to see that you can come in more gentle. You know, you can see I took more time in the roundness and the form here. It's a little more detailed, a little bit more specific of a drawing than some of the other ones. Sometimes the model will change my headspace, sometimes just the headspace I come in with. And I like that there's range, you know, I'm not like drawing just specifically one way all the time. I allow myself to be affected. This is a 5-minute drawing. Here the line is all immediate, right? Here what I did is not straight to curve, I did 2 straights. I don't do this very often, but the sort of best of the worst is to have 2 straight lines that go from wide to narrow, all right? So you're still like pinching stuff down. So I'm pinching all the energy in her body down into her hip, and that's where everything all of a sudden goes crazy, right? It's like we have the curve of force here, and then her rear end, and then down the leg, right? You can see the curves on the arm, the straights on the inside, playing around with shape. I hope you guys enjoyed the force drawing videos. I hope you come by to drawingforce.com and visit. I would love the opportunity, of course, to teach you and or mentor you in force. I wouldn't be doing it for 30 years if I didn't think it was exciting and a fun way to draw. So hopefully I will get to meet you in the future. Take care.
Most artists agree that having a website to showcase your work is important. But some of you don't have one. Trust me, I get it. There's a lot of technical work and frustration that goes into making a site. But my sponsor, Squarespace, is here to make it easy. Squarespace prides itself on making beautiful and customizable web templates that you can personalize without the headache of dealing with code. They have tools to make it easy to import art directly from sites like Instagram, and they're one of the few options out there that offer 24/7 support. If you're interested in carving out your own web presence, go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And if you're impressed with what they have to offer, you can save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain by using this link, squarespace.com/Proko. Proko. Well, that's it. I want to thank Mike again for taking the time to film these. Be sure to check out his channel or pick up his books on the Force method in the links below. Peace.